Hello again. Welcome to our study. Well, I haven't given him a name. Maybe you can, but there is a dinosaur on the screen. And the question we have is, are there dinosaurs in the Bible? So the question has come up numerous times, and I thought, well, it would be fun to go through this and figure out, are there dinosaurs in the Bible? Some say yes. Well, we're going to look at it. So before we go any farther to find out what this guy's name is or who he is or what he is, we'll pray. Father, once again, we're thankful that your creation is the place where we exist. And Father, there are many questions we have that are not always answered. So we trust you and we love you and we serve you regardless of whether we have all the answers we seek. Bless us in our endeavors to understand your creation. We'll give you thanks for it in Jesus' name. So, part one of what will be probably 4 different parts: dinosaurs in the Bible. All right, so here's some questions. Are there passages in the Bible that speak of dinosaurs? Are they there? Well, exactly where are they referenced? And then we ask ourselves, were they on the Ark of Noah? I mean, did Noah put dinosaurs on the ark? Well, did they become extinct 65 million years ago, like they tell us? Did dinosaurs coexist with man? Big question there. And then yeah, or were they killed by a meteor? If we see the picture there. And then there's several other questions that we're going to look at as we go into this study. Let's get with it. See, the word dinosaur was coined in 1842 by Sir Richard Owen. He was an English anatomist. He created the term, originally spelled dinosauria, from the Greek words dinos, meaning terrible or fearfully great, and sauros, meaning lizard or reptile. So that's where we get the term dinosauria, or what we look at it today is dinosaur. But understand that word dinosaur didn't show up till 1842. So Owen was reviewing prehistoric fossil discoveries like the Megalosaurus or Iguanodon and realized they shared a distinct elephant-like posture, fused vertebrae, making them a unique group of animals. Now, although he gave a lecture of these fossils in July 1841, the word itself became an officially literary debut in 1842, so that's when we had the birth of the name dinosaur. See, Owen intended the name to inspire awe and fear, specifically translated to terrible lizards. He gave them a scientific classification. Again, he gave them a scientific classification, one that we recognize today. Big ugly dinosaurs, big ugly lizards. But to many people, they love them. Okay, the Bible does not explicitly mention dinosaurs by name, as the term wasn't coined until the 19th century. However, now some scholars suggest that descriptions of large creatures in the Bible, such as serpents and dragons, could imply the existence of these things called dinosaurs. Now, various theories exist regarding dinosaurs in the Bible, including the idea that they were corrupted animals and were not taken onto Noah's Ark. Additionally, some biblical passages may describe massive land and sea creatures that could be interpreted as dinosaurs, and we'll look at those. The topic is part of a broader debate within the Christian community about the age of the earth. We have the young earth folks and the old earth folks, and then they discuss the interpretation of the book of Genesis. So this is a long, difficult debate. Been going on since probably 1841. We go to the book of Job, which is considered to be the oldest book in the Bible. Now, Job's at the end of his ordeal, and he and God are having a conversation. And so God is speaking there, and he says, starting in verse 15, he says, okay, Job, behold, Behemoth, which I made as well as thee. He eats grass like an ox, so this animal is a herbivore. Lo now, his strength is in his loins, and his force is in the muscles of his belly. He moves his tail like a sitter. The sinews of his thighs are knit together. His bones are as tubes of brass. His limbs are like bars of iron. He is the chief of the ways of God. He only that made him gives him his sword. Surely the mountains bring him forth food, where all the beasts of the fields do play. He lies in the lotus tree, in the covert of the reed, and the fen. Now, fen is a swamp, if you will. The lotus trees cover him with their shade. The willows of the brook compass him about. Behold, if a river overflows, he doesn't tremble. He is confident, though a Jordan swell to his mouth. Shall any take him when he is on the watch, or pierce through his nose with a snare? So here's what we're looking at. We're looking at behemoth. Well, what is it? Well, the Hebrew word describes a large beast that has 4 legs. But he says in verse 17, his tail is like a cedar. Well, if you look at your commentaries, that's what you're going to see oftentimes. Yeah, it's large and ugly, I would say, and that old guy looks like he's been through a battle or 2 or 3 or 4. He's got 4 legs, but his tail's not like a cedar. It's more of a flap, about 18 inches long, and that's about it. And no, you don't want to mess with him, and you sure can't put a noose around his neck and drag him to shore. Obviously, he is a very foreboding creature, but his tail, not like a cedar. It's more like a flap or a stick. And then some other scholars say, well, it's not a hippo, it's an elephant. 4 legs, big animal, strong. Well, that tail is not a cedar either. It's more of a brush, more of about 18 inches of a broomstick. Not much there. So as they try to define exactly what Job is seeing, exactly what God is showing Job in his definition, we see a creature that we don't have now. No creature out here has a tail like a cedar. Cedar is a huge tree. And then we think about that right there. Now, we're not quite sure exactly which that's called, but we see a tail like a cedar, and it begins to make sense. Behemoth might be just that, a large creature. And maybe like that. Now, that's just staggering to look at something like that and think that at one time was alive. How did it move? Slowly. Could anybody tame it? Absolutely not. Was it a herbivore? Yes, it was. Did it have a tail like a cedar? I think you see it. So, whatever Job is described in chapter 40, starting at about verse 15, as an animal we don't have today. And you look at that guy right there and you think, rightfully so, wouldn't want to run into him somewhere. So here's another question. Does the Bible mention dinosaurs some 23 times? Well, some say that it does. You see, if we look at 9 books, and we'll give them to you here in a minute, rendered in 9 books of the Old Testament, there's a specific word that's used 23 times. The Hebrew word there is tannim, and it means dragon. It's also described as a land or sea monster, a sea serpent or jackal. Also, it's defined as a whale. Now, the H8577, your Strong's Concordance, you'll say H stands for Hebrew, so the Hebrew word H8577 is tannim, and it means, once again, dragon. You see, the first time we see this word is in Genesis 1 and 21. And God created the great whales, the great tannim, and every living creature that moves. Okay, we get that. At the very beginning, there was tannim. See, every ancient civilization describes reptilian creatures. Now, these descriptions predate paleontology by thousands of years. In other words, we didn't have paleontologists till a long time. Ancient civilizations did not debate their existence, but they debated who had the power to defeat them, and that answer was always, only God can defeat them. Only He has the power to defeat them. Ancient civilizations had terms from them in their writings, and the term they often used was dragon. These creatures didn't change. The fossils did not change. description didn't change, but the vocabulary did. Tandem became, as we would understand it, dinosaur, or dinosauria, if you will. Going to Job 41, we have another creature. We had Behemoth before. Now we're going to look at Leviathan. Now watch what he says. Verse number 1. Can you draw Leviathan out of the water with a hook or tie down his tongue with a rope? This is a water creature now. Can you attach a bridle to his snout or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make supplications to you? Will he beg you for mercy? Will he try to make a deal with you so that you may take him in servitude? Will you play with him like a pet bird? Will you put a leash on him for your little girls? Will your business be able to buy him? Will you divide him among your merchant friends? Will you fill his flesh with harpoons or his head with lances? Lay your hand on him. You'll remember the struggle. You'll never do that again. Look, anyone's hope to capture him will prove false. Anyone would be terrified by just looking at him. No one is fierce enough to dare to arouse him. Who then can stand in my presence and face me? Who can take me to court and be reconciled to me? All of heaven is mine. I won't be silent concerning his limbs, his mighty strength, his orderly frame. Who can strip off his outer garment? Who can approach him with a bridle? Who dares to open his mouth since it is ringed with his terrible teeth? His protective scales are his pride. They lie sealed tightly together. Each one is so close to the other that not even air comes between them. Each is attached to the other, grasping each other so they cannot be separated. So we've got a creature called Leviathan, lives in the water. This is a large sea-dwelling creature. In some cases it's called a monster. Then he goes into verse 18 through 21. Now watch what he says here. His snorting releases flashes of light. His eyes are like the rays of the dawn. Flames blaze from his mouth. Streams of sparking fire fly out. Smoke billows from his nostrils like a boiling pot or burning reeds. His breath can ignite coal, and flames proceed from his mouth. Okay, what does that mean? Well, he breathes fire. He creates combustion. Interesting. Well, his neck is so powerful that all who meet him are terrified. There is no flaw in his body armor. It is firmly fixed on him and unbreachable. His heart is as strong as a stone. It is as hard as a lower millstone. When he rears up, the mighty are terrified. They are bewildered as he thrashes about. Thrusting at him with a sword won't be effective, nor will spears, darts, or javelins. He regards iron like straw and hardened bronze like a dead tree. Arrows won't make him flee. Stones from a sling are only pebbles to him. Clubs are like twigs. He laughs at the whoosh of the javelin. Beneath him he is armored with sharp potsherds. He tears through muddy ground like a threshing sledge through grain. He causes the deep to boil like water in a pot and churns the sea like one stirs ointment. The sea is luminous about him. His wake turns the sea white, like those with gray hair. There's nothing like him on earth. He was created without the ability to fear. He looks down on everything that is high, and he rules over every kind of pride. So we're talking about a huge creature that nobody wants to fool with. So what we're talking about, both of these descriptions describe a real animal. It isn't something that they're describing. They can't figure out what it is. These are real animals. They're fire breathing. Now that's a problem. How do we fire breathe? I mean, how does that happen? How does an animal create combustion? Well, guess what? There it is. That's the bombardier beetle. And it inhabits all continents except Antarctica. See, most species of bombardier beetle are carnivorous, and of course there are many. In other words, the reality of a creature that releases combustion, it is in question. There it is. See, the bombardier beetles are hydroquinones and hydrogen peroxide in a reservoir in their abdomen. That's what they store. They store those two chemicals, if you will, in their abdomen. Now, when threatened, these animals are rapidly mixed with enzymes in a separate reaction chamber. The enzymatic reaction decomposes hydrogen peroxide into water and oxygen while simultaneously oxidizing. The reaction is highly exothermic, generating temperatures near, now get this, 212 degrees and producing gaseous oxygen that rapidly sprays out of the beetle's abdomen in a defensive mist. So when someone threatens him or some other animal threatens him or some other bug, remember these guys are only the size of your thumb. So when they do threaten him, he releases a gas. I hate to be crude, but he passes gas on them at 212 degrees Fahrenheit. And there is his ability to defend himself. So the reality of a creature that releases combustion, there it is. It's not in question anymore. Now, you want to copy all of these down? There are 23 different chapters and 23 different verses in the Bible, and there you go. You can capture them all. But here's what we find. Using the King James Bible that has a Strong's Concordance and Hebrew dictionary, reference these 23 verses. The Hebrew word number in that dictionary is H8577, and that stands for Hebrew word 8577. Now that word is Tanum or dragon, which is described as a land or sea monster, a sea serpent or jackal. Again, H8577 is where you want to start your look, and there are your chapters, and you can copy them down. Other Bible translations may read them as a whale, a serpent, or a dragon. Remember, so the word dinosaur may be common to us, but that word was not even coined until 1842, which was long after the King James Bible was translated from Hebrew into English in 1611. So we see the Bible does make mention of animals that do not fit the description of those we see today. We know all ancient societies wrote of reptilian type animals, and their writings predate the study of paleontology by thousands of years. The fact that we do not read of the exact word dinosaur within the pages of the King James Bible is simply the word dinosaur. Again, it wasn't coined until 1842, which was some 231 years after the King James Bible was translated. So we could read in 9 separate books of the Old Testament. In the Hebrew, the word is Tanum or dragon some 23 times. So what happened to the dinosaurs? Where'd they go? Are we done with our study? Not on your life. We'll see you in the next one.